Hi everyone, welcome to the webinar today. We'll just allow a couple of minutes for the last few to join us and then we'll be underway. Thank you. Good to see everyone here. Okay, Marco, can we get underway? Is that okay? We can just let people in as they come.
Yes.
Great. I've seen some Zoe's coming in now. Yep, great. Okay, everyone, welcome again to this webinar. It's a pretty exciting webinar for us for reasons that I'll let you know on shortly, not just the content, but also the context in which this work has been developed. My name's Donovan Story. I'm the Waste and Climate Expert at the Climate and Clean Air Coalition, hosted by UNEP. And I'm joined by my colleague, Marco Beloli, who's also at CCAC Secretariat, who you can probably see there in the corner, and also joined, of course, by our speaker today, Stefan Denner. So we have an hour, which I think should be a great amount of time. And we're also being joined by a colleague of Stefan's as well, Bram Dortmans, who will help in the Q&A as we go along. So as you have questions, they can be technical questions as well, on the report and on Black Soldier Fly technologies as well. Please put them in the Q&A area and we'll respond to those as we go, but we've also set aside about 15 or 20 minutes for Q&A at the end of the hour as well. Just a few housekeeping things. So please don't allow the little transcription bots to come in. We have to eradicate them if we see them, because we're recording this, and please be happy enough that we're recording it, because a number of people can't join us because of time zone issues. So if you're not happy, you'll have to leave the call, but we will be recording the webinar so we can reach an even larger audience than we have today. So it's my job just to introduce the context and then to pass over to our key speaker today, Stefan. So in terms of the Climate and Clean Air Coalition, many of you know us through the Waste Hub, which, if you're not a formal member or you haven't joined the Waste Hub as such, please feel free to do so online, because we have a number of great events, of which this is one of them. And if just the next slide there, and we'll introduce today the TEEP part of our work, but more broadly, the key things about CCAC is it's a global voluntary partnership of countries and also non-state parties. We have, just updating those figures a little bit, just over 200 now countries and non-state partners that are a part of CCAC. The Waste Hub and the waste work that we do is a really important part of CCAC's agenda. And we've got a number of activities always in the Waste Hub, and of course some fantastic materials online. And the approach, of course, for those of you new to CCAC, is that it specifically addresses short-lived climate pollutants, or SLCPs. In the context of this study, the focus is very much on methane mitigation and the co-benefits of methane mitigation through Black Soldier Fly technologies. So next slide there, Steph. So we work in a number of different environments, obviously at the high level of political engagement. in terms of our country partners and country initiatives as well, including through obviously events such as COP and high-level political forums and so on. But we also very much focus on technical support and assistance, focusing on capacity development. We have a very, very good science affairs group, which advises us and also produces some fantastic reports, which you'll see online as well. And we also really try and be ahead of the agenda in some respects across our key sectors. Waste is one of them, but we also have agriculture, cooling, and oil and gas for SLCP mitigation. We try and get ahead of the discussion a little bit in terms of always thinking forward about how we can accelerate actions to reduce SLCPs, which are responsible for about half of global warming. And of course, we also have projects. Many of you will know that we have the transformative projects, country-driven projects, and so on, alongside our scientific assessments. Next slide, thanks, Stefan. So what's new about the TEEP? Well, the TEEP is our Technology and Economic Assessment Panel. It was established just a couple of years ago now, and it's really dedicated on undertaking research and disseminating the findings on what we see as innovative, under-financed or under-researched SLCP mitigation measures. And they focus on, obviously, mitigation of GHGs, but also air quality outcomes, which is an important part of our work, and our title, the Climate and Clean Air Coalition, gives that away a little bit. The CCAC TEEP then is really to look at areas that we feel deserve greater attention or greater discussion in their mitigation effectiveness, but also their co-benefits. It's led by the Republic of Ireland and Senegal as well. And you can see on the published reports and briefs, it's still a young initiative of CCAC, but we have this report on transforming organic waste with black soldier flies. This was preceded by a brief that looked at black soldier flies, and also our second waste TEEP, which is currently underway, which focuses on biocovers and landfill management. And our agricultural focus has been on digital extension services for livestock in terms of tackling methane emissions, and there's been a couple of key pieces of material that you can access online as well. And as the TEEP emerges, we'll be having other sectors which are covered in this space. And we're always open also to ideas and suggestions around where we should be focusing our TEEP research on. Next slide, thanks, Stefan. So I'm now going to pass it over, but with a very brief introduction to Stefan, who we were, oh, sorry. So I've covered this, but you can see that the TEEP focuses on technologies and understanding technologies, particularly that we feel as though have an immediate potential impact. It also supports investment opportunities. And you would have seen this for those of you looked at Stefan's TEEP brief, TEEP report on black soldier fly, that we really unpack the economic and investment opportunities around black soldier fly at different scales, different levels, and in different environments. So that marrying of understanding technology, again at different scales, alongside the investment requirements, and then the implementation, the regulatory and the policy environment is a really important part of all of our TEEP work. It's really to look at technology, investment and implementation as a whole. And it's also to guide both public but also private actors in the opportunities around these technologies, of which we're talking about black soldier fly today. Next, Stefan. I don't know if you. Okay, I'm just going to introduce Stefan before he talks. We were really thrilled when Stefan agreed to undertake this work for us last year, because Stefan, as many of you will know, is a leading voice in black soldier fly technologies and black soldier fly in a really innovative areas around black soldier fly, and that's because Stefan has such a long experience of decades of work in this field. He's seen it emerge. His PhD from ETH Zurich was on upcycling organic waste using black soldier fly. We also were really excited to have Stefan on board as well because he has such extensive experience in low to middle income countries that we really want to reach through such a report. And his role as a founder and co-manager of eClose as well, which is a great innovative company focused on black soldier fly, really means that he has a link into also private sector guidance in terms of project advisory, but also, of course, in research in this space. And Stefan completed the work not so long ago, just in time to actually be formally launched at the CCAC annual meeting in Brasilia last month. But this is an opportunity to reach another large audience that wants to learn more about black soldier fly technologies, but I think more importantly, not just on BSF, but also on what's required in terms of technology at different scales, what can be expected in terms of co-benefits, employment creation, mitigation possibilities, what's working and what's not, and also what are the principal supportive policy and regulatory environments. And of course, much more detail is available through the report as well. But I don't want to talk anymore and hold him back. So I'm going to pass over now to Stefan to lead us through for about half an hour. Please put your questions and Stefan's colleague Bram will address them as well as others. And we'll also have time for Q&A at the end as well. So I'll pass over to you now, Stefan. Great to see you again.
Great. Thank you so much for the introduction, Donovan. Yeah, well, it's a great pleasure to have the opportunity to speak about black soldier flies. And as Donovan mentioned, I'm coming more from the waste management side. So the goal of my research was always to give the organic fraction of the solid waste a value as has like glass or paper, and so we saw the black soldier fly technology as one of the options. And I really want to point this out that BSF is not the solution for organic waste management. It's one of the solutions in case it fits the environment. And I just want to keep this in mind when we go through the next few slides. And I want to show you a little bit about the technology itself, but also, of course, present the TEEP report we developed, where we go into the different aspects of black soldier flies, but also it should be like a guide for people who think about building a facility or engaging in this technology to pick the right choice, to go either small or large, or with automation or with manual labor. So you will see it's more than just another report about BSF. So as I mentioned, I always look at BSF from the waste side. And let me start with an example of the solid waste in Surabaya, in Indonesia. We have quite a high organic fraction within these 3,000 tons of waste per day. This is very typical for southern countries. And of course, a part can be composted and can be used as a fertilizer, or this is what is happening in Surabaya at the moment. And then another part is being managed in so-called materials recovery facilities, and fractions are separated and recycled. But I mean, you know it, the large part of it ends in a landfill or a dump site, or we just don't know. So, and in my view, this is just a waste of resources. We need to find a way to capture these huge parties, almost more than 90% of the waste, and make something good out of it. So we need to create incentives for collection and treatment and upcycling of this waste. And one possibility can come from this fly, the black soldier fly. You can see it's quite a large animal in comparison to the housefly. It's about 10 times heavier than the housefly, and it occurs all over the tropics and subtropics. It origins in the Americas, but over the past few hundred years, it has been distributed all over the globe. It is a very typical fly life cycle. So we have the adult fly, which mates and lay eggs. Every female lays around 700-800 eggs. And after they have hatched, they develop into larvae. They feed a lot during this time. They feed for about 2 weeks, and then transform in the so-called prepupae. This is a larval stage which does not feed anymore. They crawl out of the waste source and search a dry site where they can pupate in peace. They stay there, do the transformation, the metamorphosis, and then eclose after about another 10 days, 2 weeks into the fly again. And during the larval stage, they really feed a lot on different types of organic waste, like food waste, animal manure, but also like industrial food waste, like brewery waste, or waste from kitchens and preparation for industrial food. So we can really make use of this for waste management. We take organic waste, take the fly, and then transform this formerly known as waste into different products like animal feed in the form of the larvae, fertilizer or soil amendments in the form of the frass. This is the leftover of the waste after the larvae have fed on it. We can even dry the larvae, press the oil out, make oil, make protein meal, and therefore add value to it and make money out of it. Usually this happens in an organized way in a black soldier fly facility. For this we need a reproduction unit where we produce really a lot of small larvae. We need millions of them to put them on the substrate that we have sourced from a waste source, and then shredded or just pre-prepared for the larvae to feed on it. And after they are fed for 2 weeks, we can separate the larvae from the frass and have like at least two product lines that can be sold on the market. To give you an idea how much we can transform it in this way. So if we take a ton of bio-waste, of organic waste, we need a bit more than 1 million larvae for this. And within 2 weeks, they transform this into around 200 kilograms of fresh larvae and something like 400 kilograms of fresh frass, which has to be composted, or let's say we let it mature a bit so it can be used in the field. So you might say this is now a new technology, and you're right, it is a new technology. But if we look at the publications on BASF that have been released in the past 10 years, you see this is really a very strongly developing field. We have a very high rate of publications, but not only the academic field is working on it, there's really also a lot of investment in it. For example, this recently Entobel, it's a a facility in Vietnam has received like $25 million to build the largest facility in Southeast Asia, or also in Northern Europe we have a large investment. So it's not only the academics who are interested in this fly and who have an idea how to deal with it. It's really also it arrived in the industry as well. There are really a large variety of possible setups of a BSF facility. It can be really simple waste in some buckets and larvae on it, and then they feed. If you organize it in a good way, it is a simple thing to do. You can also go for concrete beds where you have a lot of concrete beds with the waste in it, and you just shovel it out after they have fed on the waste. It can be in crates in a little bit larger scale, or as I said, in quite large facilities where you have a sterile environment, well aerated boxes where you put in the larvae in large quantities, and also have everything in a climatized environment. So you see there's really a wide variety, a diversity in scale, but also in technology. It can be very simple even at large scale, but also highly high-tech on small scale and middle scale. So everything's possible, basically. But now before you run and build your own facility, you just have to be aware. There are some factors they have to match, and they influence the type and also the success of your facility. You would need to look at the legislation, the institutional barriers that come within your specific area or geographic context. There are national laws who regulate the use of waste as feed, or the use of insect as feed for other animals. So one would have to look at this. We have the substrate quality, the availability and accessibility. Do I have enough waste? Is it suitable for my larvae? Is it seasonal? If I rely on mango waste or banana waste, this comes in large amounts, but only a few months a year. So you have to consider this as well. You want to see if the environment fits your operation. Is it too hot, too cold? Do I have to climatize my facility? Do I have enough know-how in the area? Yeah, this is really the management aspects. But also, can I sell my products to someone who wants to buy my larvae? In what form? Is it allowed to sell it, and can I sell it also abroad? So you need to develop maybe even the market. And because there are so many questions which rely on different factors, this is something we wanted to cover in this TEEP guide, this BSF guide of CCAC. We thought we should produce a document which answers the questions: which is the most appropriate BSF system for my purpose? So when you read this, you should know something about BSF at the end, and you should have an idea in which direction you would develop your business idea. So for this, we have like two parts. We have the first part where we cover really the biology and all the key challenges, and even ethical and social aspects which are important. And in the second part, we we present 6 different systems, which are kind of representative for the everything that's operated at the moment, from very small scale to large scale. And we describe the different units and technologies that are related to these systems. I will get back to this later. So, as I mentioned, the legal framework is really important to look at. Why is this? Because it very different. You have very different layers which might influence your operation. For example, from a farming and feed regulation point of view, there are substrate restrictions. You are sometimes not allowed to feed animals with waste, or you are not allowed to use the larvae as a feed to feed pigs or chicken. So one has to look into these specific feed regulations that are applicable in your area. Then also from a waste management point of view, in many countries you need actually a license to handle and treat waste. Otherwise, you're not allowed to run a business if you're not registered as a waste management business. So you would have to look, is this applicable for a waste treatment with black soldier flies as well, or is this more treated as animal production site? So these are aspects one would have to look at. Then the whole thing about climate mitigation, it can be seen as a way to mitigate greenhouse gases. So many policies now foresee that the government takes action regarding the reduction of greenhouse gases, and this might even help you as an operator to run such a facility, because you will see it later. The BSF technology actively reduces greenhouse gases by diverting organic waste from landfills. So this can be a point. And then the whole business and innovation section, what rules and standards do I have regarding health and safety, worker protection? Since I work with, on one hand with animals and on the other hand with waste, I have to handle these two standards maybe. So that much about the legal framework from a theoretical point of view. Now a few examples from the world. For example, in the EU, it is quite difficult for black soldier fly operators, because the EU has a very strict regulations regarding what can be fed to animals. This comes from the mad cow disease crisis, where the EU decided to have a very restrictive feed regulation. So larvae at the moment are seen as just as livestock. They have the same status as cows or pigs, so they cannot be fed waste. They can only be fed feed grade quality. That makes operating a BSF facility in Europe quite difficult. A little bit different in the US. You can feed quite a wide range of substrate to the larvae, but the use of the larvae is then a bit restricted. You cannot use it as feed if you have fed it with some types of waste, but you can still use it and transform it into biodiesel or cosmetics. Use the fat, for example. Thailand, it's a country with a long tradition in the use of insects as food. So they have good agricultural practices, guidelines for cricket farming, and they are now also developing one for BSF. In Eastern Africa, they are currently working on some regulations for insects as food and feed, but for the rest, you can use quite a lot of different substrates. And for example, in Brazil, which is the largest poultry producer, there you're not allowed to feed insects to poultry. So it might be quite difficult to find a niche for your product. So you see, it really differs from country to country. Now, you also need to think about what type of business do I want to run. Some come from the waste management perspective. They see themselves as waste managers. They want to get rid of waste, and like composting or biogas, this is a way to treat waste. Others, they say, I'm an animal feed producer, so I want to produce animal feed, so I want to use as little input as possible, which is quite the opposite of the waste manager who wants to treat as much waste as possible. So you see, in a way, you have to decide what am I? Am I a waste manager or an animal feed producer? There are also other business models that you have to consider. But not only the business model, but also the production model. Do I want to see me as a one-stop shop who gets the waste and treats it and processes it and then sells a whole product? Or do I want to be someone who produces a lot of small larvae, and then I distribute these small larvae to places where the waste actually is being generated? So I have only to transport the small larvae and get the products back. Or because otherwise you have to transport all the waste, which is mostly water, so you can really save a lot of transport costs. So one has to decide, do I go for a centralized operation or maybe a decentralized, depending on the situation with the waste I have. What we also tackle in the first part of the report is this whole greenhouse gas mitigation potential. Of course, larvae, they are animals, they have a metabolism, so they release gases. And we wanted to see how much gas do they release. Is it bad? And the study that we did in Indonesia, where we measured the gas coming from the production itself, revealed that the actual direct emissions from the larvae is very small. The largest part, the global warming potential, came from the composting of the frass itself. This is this orange striped part. And then we have the blue part, which is the greenhouse gas that is being released because of the processes that run, like the machines, the shredder, the automatic shaker, stuff like this. And in Indonesia, this was not big, but it was much larger than the direct emissions themselves. And this also comes because in this part, the electricity is being produced with coal power plants, which have quite a high impact on greenhouse gases. And so it really depends, where does my power come from? So you would have to look into this. And if we now compare it to composting a ton of organic waste, we see that the same amount of waste being treated with Black Soldier Fly releases about half of what we would have with composting. But who knows if this is good or bad? We would have to really have the comparison, and the comparison is uncontrolled dumping or just a dump site where we have organic waste rotting and transforming into methane gas. And you see whatever you do, if it's black soldier flies or composting, everything is better than just dumping it. Excuse me. So that much about greenhouse gas potential. We have, of course, other factors that go into the same direction. You can read this in our report. So you see the first part really goes into these different aspects, which all have an influence on the technology, things that you have to consider. And now we're going into the second part with these system templates. So I mentioned at the beginning that we have chosen like six different systems, from really small micro-scale home systems to large-scale industry pioneers. So we have these backyard systems, which then can be a bit upgraded to a simplified BSF application, the Simba, where you still have quite a simple operation, but very organized, but you operate it more like you do beekeeping. You attend it like twice a week for a few hours, and you can still manage a really nice colony and treat some waste. We have the simplified or the centralized facility in a tropical region, which is its characteristic is mostly operated by hand, a lot of manual labor, not too many air-conditioned areas, so you make use of the tropical climate. Then we have these container-based or the decentralized systems where you have the waste treated at the waste source in batches. We have quite the large centralized system, which is already on a quite high automation standard. And then we have these large-scale industry pioneers, which also invest a lot in R&D to drive the development of the technology forward. So for all these, we developed these system templates. We tried to simplify it, and I will explain this afterwards, but already here you see how the complexity grows the bigger the system becomes. So you see we have a structure which remains the same in all the systems. We have an input, we have the collection and transport, pre-treatment and storage, conveyance and feeding, bioconversion itself. This is where the magic happens, and the reproduction unit, the harvesting, the processing of the products, and the product itself. And so all these system modules, they are composed of different process steps. So for example, for the pre-treatment and storage, we have the sorting, the size reduction, storage, and the conditioning. And within these process steps, we have different technologies where you can choose from and where you, in a way, have to decide which one fits my purpose the best. We also have some intersecting system modules like the monitoring or the climatization and housing. So also there you have different options and process steps. They are kind of summarized in sheets where we describe the system, what are the characteristics of the system. We have a kind of a SWOT analysis for each system, and under which circumstances you would use this particular system. As an example, I can tell you something about the Simba. As I said, it is simple but organized. You know exactly what you do, but you don't have to invest too much time. and you still can treat a good amount of waste. You need certain equipment, but it's quite simple. And this is also reflected in the system template. Everything is done manually. The size reduction, you take a knife, a machete, and the harvesting is with a shovel and a manual sifter, and so everything is done mostly by hand. If we go now like a step further with the centralized facility in the tropical region, it's still simple, but on a larger scale and a bit more organized. You work 7 days per week if you want to treat like 5 tons or 10 tons of waste per day. So you have to be very organized in this way, and this is also reflected in the system template. You already have a hammer mill or a meat mincer that you use for the size reduction, but you see you still have really a lot of different options to choose from. Let's take, for example, the bioconversion as a process step. So here we describe different options you have, and depending on your situation, you choose one. You can make your trays on your own if you have a workshop nearby, or you just buy plastic crates. But this really depends on the region where you're in Asia, for example. This is a very easy way to get the trays. In Africa, it's extremely difficult to get these trays. So it depends, and they are also much more expensive. And if you have a lot of space, for example, you go for maybe these beds, these bioponds, we call them. It's concrete beds where you just fill in the waste, but obviously you need much more space because you do not have the three-dimensional character. If you have a bit more money, you might go for some conveyor belt system. So you see there already for this particular process step, you have quite different options. And of course, we describe each of these options. And we even have a kind of a decision matrix where you have all the options, and then we describe how do they compare to each other regarding hygiene, cost per ton, or labor. So for each of these process steps, we have this table. So you see, there's on one hand these different process steps we look at, but we also show in a way some other aspects like the degree of product processing or the areas of climate control you would need. So we have these bar graphs where you can compare the different systems quite easily on a more visual basis, and also the costs, the investment, but also the operational costs. What does it mean for me per ton of input? If I go for like the system 3, you see we need really a lot of labor because everything is done manually. And in comparison to the large-scale industry pioneers, where they try to reduce the amount of labor to a minimum, because quite often they are in high salary countries operating, so they want to keep this as low as possible. On the other hand, the maintenance is much lower because you do not have the machines that you have to look after, and in other systems this is different. Yeah, so this is in a way how the report is built up. You can download it for free on the CCAC homepage or by scanning this QR code. Go enjoy. I think also from a visual point of view, it came out really nice. We were I'm happy that we could work with a graphic designer who really made it appealing in a way. So this is BSF in a nutshell, but you just have to be aware there are really challenges. For example, the scaling. We often see that people want to scale too fast. And we always say, try to have a pilot which is really working, where you can try out all the different factors that influence your operation before you scale, and make sure it really works and you are familiar with it. Make it modular, so you can you do not have to invest in one go, but you can really go in steps. And the waste supply, I cannot say it too often. People just underestimate waste. Everyone thinks there is waste everywhere, but it's not the case. You have to have access to a good waste source, which is clean, which comes on a regular basis, and who does not harm your animals. You just have to secure your input of waste. Imagine this is the feed for your animals. It's like if you do not have the feed for your pigs or for your cows. Just make sure you have enough waste. Then we have a certain technological complexity, and since this is such a young technology, it's still very on the move. So things change almost every day. So you have to be aware that the technology is still in its growing phase. You need to find the market. At the moment, it's still difficult to sell your products because people don't know it. Maybe it's not allowed. You cannot ship it overseas. So the market is still a bit tight. So be aware of this. And investors sometimes they just want to see a very fast development of your business, which you cannot guarantee. So do not promise too much at the beginning. There might be really, they might not like that. And at the moment, economic sustainability is still quite an issue. Prices for the other products like fish meal or soy meal are quite low, and one would have to find a good way to lower the production costs in order to be a competitor with these other products. Carbon credits might be a good way to guarantee this. So this is currently quite on. There's movement in this regard. Carbon credits. There has been, just recently, a few weeks ago, Janzi, it's quite a big BSF operator in Tanzania and Kenya. They have been granted the first carbon credit protocol somehow, so they can now sell their carbon credits. So this could be quite an interesting field. So you see the future is bright, but we have to be aware of the challenges. But I'm quite positive that we're on a good way, and I personally think they're just also extremely fun to work with, the flies and the larvae, and it's just a fascinating topic. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope I could give you a little bit of insight into this fascinating technology, and I'm ready for your questions. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Stefan, very much. We've had a load of great questions in the Q&A, which Bram has kept up with. And I just posted a link also to Chanzi because they are a really interesting organization in Africa. And it's well worth a look for this. And they have moved into that carbon credit space. And we're still at early stages of the methodologies and carbon credit approvals. But it is a really interesting area. So thanks for raising that. So I'm going to pass back to Marco now to allow us the last sort of 10 minutes for any additional questions. So I think Marco will make the microphones available, and we'll use up the rest of our time with any verbal Q&A. And of course, keep posting your questions in the meeting chat if you would like to, and Bram and Stefan and others, I and others can answer them as we go. Thank you. Thank you again, Stefan.
Welcome.
Thanks, Simon. Maybe Fernando, since your hand is up, feel free to unmute and ask your question.
Yes.
Now you are muted, Fernando.
Let me, okay.
Yes, now we can hear you. Yes, perfect.
Good morning from Uruguay. Great conference, Stefan. I'm one of your students, then I know you a lot. I'm very keen with that activity, and I'm convinced that black fly soldier will be the great insect to bioconvert everything here. It's, like you say, very tough and very difficult to start, but we will prevail. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for this.
Let's go over to you, Bill. I think he also posted a question in the Q&A. So maybe you, Bill, you can just say it out loud.
Yep, I'll read the questions. Thanks, Marco, and thanks, Stefan. Brilliant presentation. So I'm Yobel. I'm from Gaia, and I'm based in Indonesia, where these BSF things are thriving in the last 5 years and growing fast. I think the question is from the perspective of waste management, because I know that some BSF farmers don't look themselves as a waste provider, waste service provider. We know that waste management is essential public service, and scaling up, especially in the global south, is a huge challenge for most organics treatment, mostly because we don't have the basic services like waste collection and source separation, which affect the scalability as well. So my question is, we know that getting big in the first place it's challenging. I think it's not only for BSF, but also most organics treatment facilities. And a lot of these facilities are operating in small scales, but also community-led, sometimes waste picker-led in some global south countries. But they're having this challenge to scale, especially on the capital cost and also securing the feedstock. And there's like things that we've seen in Bandung, where I'm come from, that some BSF farmer can scale a bit faster because they secure a contract with bulk generators like markets, restaurants, cafes, right? But a lot of them actually are struggling because they are doing the collection door to door in neighborhood areas, which doesn't guarantee anything. So from these essential public service, perspective and public finance, probably, what would be your takeaways to help scaling up these facilities, knowing that we need to reduce methane fast, but also making sure that it fit for the context, especially for the fiscal budgets of local government, who basically holds 70%, 80% of the responsibility in delivering this public service. Thank you.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Thank you so much. Because it tackles really different aspects. One is the access to the waste and the collection and the separate collection, but also this whole scaling. And we had quite a long project in Indonesia that Bram, my colleague, was leading for 6 years, and already there we worked a lot with the local municipalities. So we made kind of a combination of, it was like a public-private partnership. So you had the municipality who is responsible for collecting the waste and bring it to these TPST, I think these collection centers where things are being sorted, and there they could also then treat the waste with black soldier flies. So in a way, in a decentralized manner, but you had the municipality being responsible for collecting the waste. And then you had a team who was taking care of the organic fraction with the black soldier flies, and they had also a composting facility. And so instead of just going big in one place, you had all these different decentralized facilities who treated the waste. We have now starting quite a similar approach in the Philippines, where we also work with the municipality. And I think this could really be a way to go, because as you say, collecting good organic waste is quite a challenge and costly, and in a way it is in the responsibility of the municipality to provide this service. And so this can be quite a good cooperation of black soldier fly treatment companies and the municipality to work together in order to have a bigger impact. Does this? I hope this answers your question or gives at least a bit food for thought.
Thanks, Stefan. Very helpful.
Yeah, thanks both. I'll maybe go through the 2 questions first, and then we go to the people who have their hands up. So one from Abu Bakar, he's asking about how long does it typically take for black soldier fly larvae to degrade various types of organic waste, and how does this timeline align with the duration of the larval stage itself? And then maybe the other one could be related from Sandra. What can be done to enhance the market of insect protein? And then we'll go to those who have their hands up.
You want me to answer these questions, or do we wait for the ones with the hands up?
Maybe respond to these 2 questions first briefly, so we can accommodate more, because we're a bit running out of time.
The first one is pretty easy. Oh, well, no, not easy, but usually you let the larvae feed for about 12 to 14 days on the waste. So you have them fed for 5 days after hatching on a good substrate, and then these 5-day-old larvae you put on your waste source, and then you harvest maybe 10 days later. They have grown really big and fat, and within these 10 days they reduce the amount of substrate by about 50 to 60%. But of course, it depends a bit on the waste source. If you have a chicken manure, it takes a bit longer than if you have restaurant waste. How to make the products more attractive on the market? You would need to find out what does the market want, or what do you want to substitute with your product? And this can really differ from one country or even one location to the other. In certain places, you can sell your larvae directly alive to chicken farmer, local chicken farmers, because they do not trust the ones who sell chicken feed, because they say the chicken feed is always mixed with sand, so I rather go for live larvae. But you would have to find out about this. In Indonesia, for example, the most attractive market was the market for households with singing birds and ornamental fish. You might know that in Southeast Asia, a lot of families have their own singing birds, and they take good care of them, and so the black soldier fly larvae were very welcomed as an additional feed for the larvae and for the birds, and therefore you could get a really good price. So one would have to look at the market and also promote it, and you have to bring some examples to people and say, look, just try it and feed it to your fish, feed it to your chicken, and see what the effect is.
Okay. And also Bram responded to that question, Sandra, so feel free to go through it. So maybe just for the interest of time, we'll close with the last 3 hands up. And please keep your questions short so that we can maintain the time as well. So maybe over to you, Hans, Andre, and then Gopal, and then Sir Abel.
Thank
Actually,
you
it is a new
for
technology, and
allowing
particularly
me
in
to ask a
Bangladesh. I
question.
am from South Asia. This
Sorry.
technology is not applied so far. In Bangladesh, source separation of organic waste and metallic waste is very challenging. If we introduce this concept gradually, very small scale, if the source separation, organic waste and inorganic waste, is not completely 100%, what will be our output? Is it successful or totally failed?
The larvae, they do not care too much, actually. They will feed around the inorganic waste as well, and even if the organic waste is contaminated with heavy metals, for example, we have seen that the larvae are not really affected by the heavy metals, but they accumulate the heavy metals. So the larvae, I would not be worried about the larvae themselves. They are doing good, but the use of the product at the end might be a bit complicated because you cannot guarantee that the larvae are free of heavy metals because they have fed on mixed organic waste. And also for the residue, the frass, it might be difficult to make a good compost or soil amendment out of it. So we highly recommend that you source separate and and then feed it to the larvae. As soon as you mix waste, you lose. I'm sorry to say. Try to source separate.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
And now Hans.
Hans, yeah.
Yes, thank you for asking me. I'm an environmental engineer stationed in Germany, and I've been advising, in particular, USAID in Rwanda on composting. And BSF composting was an issue, actually, there. And I have a question regarding, the organic material again. I understand that certain types of organic materials are not so terribly useful for BSF treatment, like dead leaves, for example. My question in particular would be to kind of specify more clearly what is suitable, what is not suitable, and in particular about manure. Would manure from ruminants like cows and goats be suitable for BSF treatment?
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, of course, this is a very important question because quite often you have a certain source of organic waste in abundance, and you want to know, or you need to find a solution for it. And it is the case that if you have a very high fiber content, like in leaves, dry leaves, for example, or hay or whatever, this is not really suitable. When it comes to manure of ruminants, which is also very high in fiber, the larvae, they grow, but they grow very slowly if you feed them with this source alone. I guess the trick here is more to mix it with something else. You have the possibility to mix different substrates, which each alone is unsuitable or not very suitable, and then create a really nice substrate for the larvae. For example, you take some yeast from from the brewery industry or from cheese making or whatever, which is very sticky alone. But then you mix it, for example, with your cow manure, it can become a really nice mixture, because the cow manure brings some nutrients but also brings structure and can help the larvae to move in this matrix with these sticky yeast, and then you might have something suitable. We work together with the company, with BioConvision in Uganda, and one part of their feed is water hyacinth. So they take the water hyacinth, which covers big parts of Lake Victoria. They shred it to very fine pieces and mix it with market and restaurant waste, and this gives a good structure to the substrate. It makes it fluffy, and you can really also treat this quite problematic water hyacinth this way. So it can really be interesting to look into different mixtures of wastes.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah. Darwin, should we take one more and then are we close now?
I think a very, very short last one, and then we have to wrap up. We've gone just over the hour
Unfortunately.
mark, so we'll finish up. Stefan, just answer this one briefly, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah,
okay?
I try. I give my best in answering briefly.
Sierra Bell, feel free.
Thank you so much to give me the. Thank you for your brand presentation. I'm from Gabon. I believe in the potential of BASF, and I already designed the project for the Gabon. So I want to know how it is possible to obtain from you the technical and the financial support. And the second thing I want to ask, it is possible to have the PTT version of your presentation, because it's very informative. It would be very nice for us to keep this PPT with us, so you can every time come and show it again. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So about the PowerPoint, I think the CCAC will have to decide on this. From my side, it's no problem to share. For the technical expertise, I mean, of course, Bram and I, we from eClose, we sell our services, of course. But I just want to point out there is really a large amount of knowledge out there already. And one really good source of information is the homepage of the department SANDEC of EAWAC. It's a research institute that Bram and I used to work with. So we are a spin-off from this Aquatic Research Institute of the ETH domain. And I can ask Bram to post the link to the BASF knowledge site there. You will find our step-by-step guide. You find a lot of instructional videos regarding the black soldier fly technology, a lot of publication which are really made for people who want to know more about it, who have specific questions about what type of light do I need for my flies, how can I dry my products. So you will really find a lot of information for free on the homepage of SANDEC. Yeah, feel free to do this.
Thanks.
Yeah, I see Bram already posted the link. It was actually a very good last question, because it gave me the opportunity to point out to this homepage.
Well, Stefan, Marco, thanks very much for moderating that and looking after that Q&A. Stefan, thank you very much for your generous time again today, and again, congratulations on the report. It was a pleasure to work with you on it, and I'm sure I speak for Marco itself. Thanks for the positive feedback also for the design team and the communications team. I also think they've done a fantastic job. Please have a look at the report online. It's very digestible with some great examples, and we'll make this recording available as well from today. So once again, thank you, Stefan. Thank you, Bram, for all of your support as well. Marco, thank you for this process. Later on this year, we'll be releasing another CCAC TEEP report and providing a webinar as well on biocovers and landfill management towards mitigation of particularly methane emissions. So please look out for that. Be great to have you involved in our Waste Hub events going forward. So please check out our website and keep in touch. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.